Well, Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us once again on ShrimpNet, the podcast of the Shrimps Trust. And as I've said, Happy New Year to both our listeners. And two of them are appearing tonight. Plenty to chat about, as usual, with the games that have gone on, the games that are coming up, the departures, the signings, the ownership on the table, and to keep us informed as to the possible comings and goings. With Joel and myself, the Dirty Dozen, as we call ourselves, we are joined by the thinking woman, boardroom heartthrob, James Wakefield. Welcome along, James.
Thank you very much indeed, David.
And fresh from his 2-goal haul versus Burton, we welcome our Southampton loanee, and not our only Southampton loanee now, but the fleet-footed and maybe slightly offside, Caleb Watts. Welcome along, Caleb.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for coming on, and thanks for being on side when I spoke to you. So, where do we start? Usual format. We'll start with the Boxing Day game at Port Vale, which was, I'll say it as I see it, I thought we were two pretty poor sides beset by a poor pitch, and one goal settled it, and the less said the better, Joel.
Yeah, I got it. It's not one that's I'm gonna remember with much fondness. I thought first half, maybe about 55 minutes, I think we probably edged it just about, but like you say, it wasn't exactly like there was a great deal of quality in that game. It wasn't it wasn't a memorable one. I think we've probably had the best chance with that Melbourne header, and it really, from behind the goal, it really looked like it was going in, so that was a bit agonising. And then just to add insult to injury, the keeper bounces straight into the keeper's arms, boots it up, win the flick on, and Massey hits it in from 25 yards. So yeah, that felt very cursed at that moment. I felt, it just felt very unlucky. And then, but these things happen in football, and I think, we kind of piled on a bit. And then I think around the kind of 50, 60-minute mark, there was a couple of changes that had been made. I think there was one at half time as well from Port Vale. And that just seemed to give them a little bit more control and surety in midfield.
Yeah, a bit more cohesion, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think they brought on a more experienced midfielder, just having a quick brief look at it, and yeah, they just kind of seemed to control that a bit more and then get a bit more territory. And I thought they did quite a good job of pinning us in our final third. They didn't threaten much, in fairness, but they didn't really let us have much joy. Maybe we could have done a bit more to change the situation and react to that, but we haven't on the day, and it's disappointing. But yeah, thankfully the 2 games since have cast out away, kind of made us forget about that one a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest of games, James, but it was a bit of a shall we say, the usual format. Nothing really to separate the sides apart from we didn't score and they did.
I think that's fair. I've just got to very quickly go off on a bit of a tangent here. I've got a village football game tomorrow night. 2 sets of dads, 2 villages, with a referee, 11 aside, and a keeper has just volunteered, an actual keeper. So I've got a keeper for my team for tomorrow night. How exciting is that? Sorry, I digress.
Right, are you in full kit?
Oh, in full kit, obviously.
Oh,
full kit, referee, 11 aside. It's as serious as this football gets at 47 years old. I didn't have a keeper. Nobody wanted to play in goal, and Pilar from the local barbers has just volunteered, and apparently he's good.
All right. Right, so you'll be on for cheap haircuts as well.
I cut my own, Freez, honestly. Right, back to Port Vale. I think Freez has got it right. You guys have got it right, and I'm sure that Caleb will have a more expert opinion. There wasn't a lot of chances on the night, but it just looked horrendous conditions, like really, really crap conditions. You couldn't work out whether the ball was going to run, get stuck. People were falling over. People were leaving the ball behind. Every back pass to the goalkeeper looked like either it might turn into a chance. So it was a low chance game on a low quality pitch.
Yeah, it's not one that'll live long in the memory, Caleb. Put it down as another defeat and we move on. And obviously we have bounced back since then. But it's the one thing that came out of it was that Derek seemed fairly reticent to make changes when they'd made changes. And that's not a criticism. It's just, obviously, Donald Love, ended up coming on and getting sent off, bless him. And I can understand his frustration. But it was a frustrating afternoon, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't. our finest day, and it was a terrible day to play football. I think the pitch was ruined, and we weren't quite on our game, and I think that's probably the less said the better.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. So, as a stat man, we move on to Accrington. Now, Accrington, obviously, I think we've played them something around the 30 times in the Football League, Mark, and I think up to that game on the 29th, we'd beaten them twice and lost 15 and drawn the rest. That's something about right, Joel, is it?
I don't know it, but yeah, that sounds about right. About 14 or 15 seasons. So yeah, sounds about right.
And yet on the day, again, pretty even for maybe the first 20, 25 minutes. In fact, we cleared one off the line, as we know. Accrington had a decent chance, which thankfully Gibbo cleared off the line, but took our chances that day. And it just shows you the difference. 2 goals before half time, and all of a sudden we look pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think little quick kudos to Cole. Actually, it was who headed it off the line, and there was a couple of
Cole?
good,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, and we'll speak about him more in a minute because he had a great game, but and a couple of good saves from Connor as well. But yeah, I thought it wasn't too much in the first half. I thought just before we scored, actually, Accrington came off quite a good spell. To be honest, I thought they had a couple of decent chances. The lad they had at left wing back, he was causing a bit of trouble. Pritchard, obviously, before his injury, unfortunately, he was causing a bit of trouble as well. But then, yeah, we just kind of had a bit of a good spell, and we made the most of it. I think what was really good to see was Cole doing what he's really, really good at. And you see all this on Twitter, and when the rumours about him go around, and you get, he's a 1-season wonder for goals, blah blah blah, and you see all this nonsense. But like, really, the value of Cole, yeah, the goals are great, but the real value to us, especially, is the way he's able to hold the ball up and bully defenders. And he did that for both of the goals. The first one, obviously, directly assisting it, and then it's an unbelievable hit by Shaw for that one. Really, really good footwork as well. And then playing the switch ball for Cooney, and he's just kind of gone on the rampage, controlling it with his head, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then it's quite a nice little run from Phillips, actually, just watching it back, which opens the space up for Shaw, dragging the marker away, for Weir, dragging the marker away. And then, yeah, it finished it off nicely. And then, like you say, we've not found that second goal yet at all, I think, this season. Well, to go 2-0 up. So to do that, and then, yeah, it seemed to give us a bit of a lift. And I think the second half was quite assured. I know John Coleman likes to think that they were dominating, but if having a few kind of p-rolled shots, the best shot stopper in the league, is dominance, then fine. That's his definition of dominance, but they weren't dominating. It was pretty comfortable. And then when it looked like they might be starting to get a bit of an upper hand, I thought the silk that Derek made to bring Caleb on and just give us a bit more zip further up the pitch and get them a bit higher, I thought that worked really nicely. And yeah, really happy, really, really, and just great to beat Accrington finally again.
Exactly. Obviously, we've come up. Obviously, we've shared Lancashire Combination, we've shared Northern Premier League, we've shared Conference and League Two, and now we've shared League One. So we've shared 5 different divisions with them, and it's only really in recent times that they've had the upper hand. We've had probably, particularly non-league and in the conference, we had the upper hand on Accrington. But since we got in League Two and League One, they seem to have the Jonah side on us, don't they, James? So it was refreshing to win.
It's brilliant. I've never seen us beat Accrington, and I've seen us play them a lot of times. And I never saw one of the non-league victories, and I've not seen us beat them in the last 12 years either. So absolutely wonderful for us to beat them. And the best thing about the game for me was not scoring a couple of goals and getting a proper lead. It was the fact that when the fourth official put the board up towards the end, and there was 8 minutes or so of extra time, and it was a lot of extra time. There wasn't that intake of breath, that panicky feeling. There was that sense of, now we've got this. The team genuinely looked like they were playing within themselves. So yeah, really, 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 really encouraging. And to be fair, no matter what John Coleman says, and he's a Morecambe legend, all of the guys upstairs were very, very clear. We were deserved winners. I've got a lot of time for Andy at Accrington, and him and his sons actually, and one of his mates were all absolutely 100%. You deserve that, no complaints whatsoever. You played within yourselves, and you won it comfortably.
And it was very pleasing, obviously from a team point of view and for a personal point of view. It before that, just 2 wins, Caleb. It was much needed, following on from some decent performances, but not got us the points. And we actually had a decent performance that got us the points. And it's signalled a bit of a sea change in the attitude, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think, as Joel said, us getting the second goal has been important, and we haven't done that enough this season. And the fact we got it against Accrington probably gave us that confidence to push on and get a fairly comfortable win, I'd say.
Yeah, pretty comfortable. You came on and did your bit. You did your usual of charge around, got stuck in, etc., etc. It was a great atmosphere on the day. Is it difficult in a local derby like that to come on and make your mark?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I really made my mark in the game, but I don't think so. I'm not from up here, so I don't attribute a lot of like personal. I'm not hugely like crazy up for a derby up north as I would be down south, where like I know what the games mean to the people. But yeah, like it was a big game. The fans were up for it, and we just wanted to give them the 3 points that they deserved, really.
Yeah, and it took a long time coming, but like I say, that's our 3rd win over Accrington in probably 15 seasons. So yeah, we enjoyed that one. So moving on, the Burton game. Burton won their last 2 games. Looked in pretty good form. Our old adversary, when he used to play up front for Southport, is now their manager, and we had many battles with him in the conference, and he was always a wholehearted and was always on the, shall we say, he was always on the edge of the referee's notebook, and nothing's changed. Burton are very much in his, they were very attack minded. They came and had a real go, but let's talk about the suicidal high line.
It was interesting. I remember actually at half time I had a little, because it was just a bit bizarre in many ways. Just the way that we just so easily, there could have been a couple more goals in that first half alone, because there were moments where the ball's getting popped over the top and Cole's hit that one just past the post. But I remember having a little peek at their Twitter at half time, and a few of their fans were kind of saying that they've had this high line for a few games and they've had a few scary moments in previous games, but nobody's really quite found a way to punish him maybe as much as they should have. And obviously we've done our homework. The players have taken on board what's been said to them, and they've applied that in the game really well, because yeah, it was just very, very strange to watch. I mean, we say they gave us some gifts, but at the same time, they've been doing similar in the last few games. It sounds like the teams haven't capitalized it like we did. So we were definitely doing something right that the other teams weren't doing as much. And yeah, it was just really good to see and get a few goals, boost a bit of confidence, just lots of good performances going forward. Carl Stockton and Kim Phillips were both running in behind, caused a right load of trouble for Burton's centre backs. And then obviously Cole's had to go off at half time. Caleb's come on again, just more of the same really. Just caused loads of trouble running in behind, got a couple of goals, and yeah, just really nice to see. I mean, it's hard to, it's one of those that's hard to unpick too much from, but just because they had a really high line, we exploited it in a way that teams haven't done recently, and we got a load of goals for it. And it was nice as well for Ripley to have literally nothing to do. Well, his biggest contribution to the game actually was booting the ball upfield, which which and
it's a positive, James. That's 2 games without conceding, and our goal difference went from -17 to -10, which is the best in the bottom 6 now. So it was important on the day.
It helped as well by a couple of our rivals getting spanked the day after, it makes a huge difference. That shift of goal difference. Obviously, there's a lot of football left to be played. I think the only other thing I'll say, and Joel's absolutely right, and Derek actually said it a few days ago. He said they stuck with the high line, and we were surprised that they did. We capitalised on it. But it was the 50-50s as well. Like, we won every 50-50 stat on the ground and in the air. And that's testament to the players. You can't take advantage of a high line unless you're winning the ball for the opposition team. And we won the ball, we moved it quickly, and we took advantage. But I think it wasn't just that high line. It was that Morecambe wanted it a lot more on the day.
and I'm going to come to Caleb now and say, well, I'll take a 5-0 win in fact, I'll take a 1-0 win any day of the week. But I'll be absolutely honest here that in our first 4 goals, none of them are going to win goal of the season competition, are they?
No, I agree. But it just doesn't matter how they come, especially where you're at, especially where we're at. I don't think so. Yeah, we'll take all 5 and take the 3 points.
And so while we're on the goal of the season, we'll talk about your first, which was possibly the scrubbiest of the lot. It actually looked like a rugby scrum, and you just stuck your foot out and it went in.
Yeah, I was just trying to follow the pack as it got closer to the goal, and it popped out, and I just swung my lefty at it. I think Kieran got the assist for it. He was telling me today.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I was saying to my brother the week before that I'd love an easy one just to get off the mark, and they don't get a lot easier than that. So
no, we'll talk about the second one now, because obviously it made a lot of online and on TV. They made quite a lot of fun of it. It was like, oh, it might have been offside. But actually, the still of the pass being made, it shows it was pretty close, and the liner was probably about a yard behind you, and you sort of do look, you do look about a yard offside, but it looked clear 5 or 6 yards on the TV when the camera flashed at you, didn't it?
Yeah, I think him stepping up and then me making the run at pretty similar times has probably shown that. We came the next day, and the gaffer was saying that they'd released some photos, and I was almost onside.
Yeah.
And when I went back to see it, even I was surprised at how close it looked, because I felt like I was, when I've looked up and I've seen all the yellow shirts behind me, I was sure he'd blow up, but he didn't. So
yeah, and you had a long way to go as well, didn't you?
yeah. Sometimes when you have too much time, it's probably worse. And as I was driving, I was looking at Adam Med, thinking should I give him a goal? Can I get the pass to him? But I thought, if I mess this up, then it looks worse to me, the keeper saving it. So I thought I'll go for goal.
But it looks, and like I say, I was behind you. I was in the home end, and it looked from where we were like he'd sort of invited you to go near post, and you just went, "Oh, thanks very much," and slipped it past him.
Yeah. I had one before where he did a similar thing, and I still tried to go for a post, and he saved it. So I thought, yeah, I'll go near stick this time.
Yeah, I was going to come to that actually, because obviously there was numerous chances during the day, like you say, like Joel alluded to. Cole had one where he chipped it over the keeper, and there was a couple of people who had a couple of sort of decent chances from set pieces, etc. And then you came on at half time, and I think you have 4 shots in the end. I think you did, didn't you?
5.
Yeah. So and bizarrely, probably the hardest one of the lot was the one that he scored as the 5th goal.
Yeah. I really should have put away the last one for the hat trick, and the other 2. To be fair, it was funny. I've been waiting for chances all season, and they all come in 45 minutes like that.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because and I'll go back to what Joel said against the Port Vale game when Max Melbourne's header hit the post and came back into the keeper's arm. And I think, that was just a little bit of luck when it went against us. But then again, I look against Burton, I think, God, we've had about a season's worth in one game there. Because it's just the way it went. Everything seemed to fall for us, particularly like you said, your first goal, just sort of like a complete melee in the box, a right mess, and all of a sudden it just pops out, and there you are, and you'll not get an easier one.
No, I won't. You said it all, genuinely.
What I quite enjoyed was after the first one, watching the 3 players who were closest to the ball have an actual discussion while celebrating about who had scored it. And there was this chat. You could see Kieran going, "No, it was me," and the others going, "Really, was it?" And it was a little chat.
And it's funny because they were claiming offside there, and he wasn't offside because there was a guy next to the keeper, and he was stood this side of him. But was it Jensen's shot that deflected onto him?
I think it was. Caleb actually might be able to say from the dressing room, but it looked like the keeper had saved the shot onto Kieran's chin.
I genuinely couldn't tell you. On the bench, we were having a similar discussion because we all thought Jensen had scored.
Yeah.
And we're pretty used to seeing that. So
Well, my missus actually said at the time that she's never seen a ball go over the line so slowly with everybody watching it, and you could see it going. But hey, they'll count. So that's given everybody a lift. Surely the dressing room now must be thinking, well, actually we can crack on. We've got a chance. We've got Cheltenham at home on Saturday, and looking at the way we've played in the last 2 games, Cheltenham not in the greatest of form. We weren't in the greatest of form. Surely that puts us in a situation now where the pressure is now slightly off because we've actually got 2 wins.
I think the pressure's always on to win games, I think. But I know what you're saying. I see where you're coming from. But at home, we've been quite good this season. So I think, form or not, we back ourselves to get a result against Cheltenham. We're obviously going in with more confidence now. But yeah, I feel like in the dressing room, we've got a good squad and we all want to get 3 points whenever we can. So we won't ease up or feel as if the pressure's off us now.
I mean, obviously we are still in the bottom 4, but it did feel like the Accrington and the Burton games were must win to keep us in contention. Whereas all of a sudden, the way other results have gone for us, we are now back in the pack. And that's got to be a good thing, Joel, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you don't want to be too dramatic about these things going into January, but I think if we'd lost those 2 games, it's Burton and Accrington, and results have gone not an entirely unlikely way, we could have been 10 plus points away from safety. And obviously there's a long way to go, but if you're 10 plus points away from safety around January, then that's really hard to make up. And
that really is pressure on.
It's possible, obviously, but it would have been very, very difficult. So to kind of be facing up to that possibility and then perform, and then for the players to perform in the way that they have done and get the 2 wins, it's such a relief. It's such a confidence boost, and we've gone from looking like we were on the verge of getting cut adrift. I've been, because we've won a couple of games. I've collected my toys. I've put them back in the pram. I've started listening to the Not the Top 20 and D3 D4 podcasts again because I can bear to listen to them now. But but they were saying, a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, yeah, Morecambe and Forest Green, I think they're off now. But a couple of wins. We say results going in our favour, but I don't think it's that much of a surprise that Cambridge and Accrington lost to Sheffield Wednesday and Derby away as well, both at their, at Pride Park and Hillsborough. So, yeah, you just look at the table now and it's on, isn't it? We're 1 point away from safety. We've got the best goal difference. It is well and truly on. It just feels a lot nicer to be looking at the table now, to be honest.
Well, the only, I mean, yeah, I don't think for a minute that that we're going to give up and say everything's rosy in the garden. It isn't, quite obviously, but we've got to take heart from the fact that we performed pretty well at Cheltenham and lost 1-0 to probably their only 1 shot on target. We had 1 shot that hit the bar. Again, it was not dissimilar to the Port Vale game, really, where we were slightly better in the first half, and then second half, we were chasing it a bit and Kieran at the bar in the last minute and blah, blah. It just didn't quite go for us. But their scoring record's even worse than ours. So,
I'll be honest, I thought the Cheltenham away game, I thought it was probably the worst performance of the season. We didn't create
it wasn't
anything.
great.
And I think Cheltenham did to us what we like to do to teams. They sat back, they defended really well, and then they hit us in the break several times. And I think they could have had a second in the second half. I think we had a good bit of play in the first half, but we just didn't create enough genuine chances.
No.
And it was interesting to see actually Derek come out and be very, upfront about how poor he thought the performance was. And I think as we see the way like Derek kind of assesses games, I think it tends to be more, chances and having good moments in and around the penalty area. And we just didn't have any of those moments against Cheltenham. But, we're in much better form now. There's got a bit going. I think we found a bit of a good formula in terms of our lineup and how we use the team. So I'm got loads of hope for Saturday.
Well, that was going to be my next question to all 3 of you, really, in the simple fact that my sort of COD theory for me is he's kind of persisted with the same system of 3 centre backs, and I know we've had this conversation before that it was like many people are calling it 6 defenders because he's having to play Gibbo in midfield, and we've laughed about that. But with Ryan Cooney and by accident Adam Mayer taking up the left wing back position, all of a sudden we seem to have found the ideal two people to actually do that, because they can both motor up and down. They're both pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the system looks to be working with the two up front, because we've got the difference of Kieran Phillips with the pace over the top and Cole with his back to goal. And whether by accident or not, it's nice to see, Joel.
Yeah, and even even when Mel obviously went off injured against Accrington, but even Melbourne, he's somebody who can get up and down the flank really well as well. And the whole six defenders thing. Liam Gibson's been playing CDM. I know technically he's a left back or left centre back, but he's playing instead of someone who was nominally a defensive midfielder, Usman Fain, and who's going to be better at playing passes forward. It's going to be Gibbo. So.
To be fair, I thought Gibbo was man of the match against.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have agreed with you, and I get why, because he's got a lot of good skills for playing in that position, and I think it's a hard position to adapt to. But as we can see in the last few games, he's done that really well. So when the sixth defender thing gets thrown around, I do think it is a bit disingenuous, to be honest, because Gibbo's playing as a midfielder, and it's a role he does bring some attacking qualities to, because I think he's good on the ball, and I think he finds a good pass through the lines and good passes forward. So, yeah, I do disagree with the whole six defender thing. I think it's 3-5-2.
I think Gibbo's adapted. It's taken him time, and bizarrely, obviously he was on this podcast about a month ago saying that he did find it difficult to adapt, and at the time he'd switched back to sort of like left centre back, left sort of like attacking midfield, whatever. And he did say it takes time, because obviously, and you made the point that you've got the comfort of the touchline, and he hasn't got that anymore because he's got a whole pitch to do. But he does seem to have settled in the last couple of games, and along may it continue. We shall see against Cheltenham. It's going to be interesting. But it's nice to be coming on and saying positive things about everybody at the moment, because it's, we're always trying to be positive on this podcast. And at times we seem to be. People tell me that you're always trying to be positive, and sometimes you might be clutching at straws. But it just goes to show you that we've been sort of saying for weeks we've got some good players, and it is only a matter of time. And sure enough, as I said about 3 weeks ago, Barry Roach said somebody soon is going to get an absolute battering, and he told me that before the Exeter game, and we never got anywhere near Exeter, but. 3 weeks later, look what happens. So Barry predicted it. So well done, Baz. And I know he listens, so I'll give him some credit. So right, we'll move on now. Caleb, you're in the frozen north on loan. How did that come about?
It's just one of my options, and I like the idea of I've lived away from home for ages, so living away from home has never been a big thing for me, and I like the opportunity playing League One. I like what the manager had to say, so I just thought, yeah, effort. I'll go up north and try and play some League One football.
It's all right. So has anybody given you gravy yet?
I have stayed away from the gravy. I'm not a gravy man, so.
How did I know that'd be the weakness? How did I know? So obviously you're at Southampton, and they're obviously a Premier League club. You started off at QPR. I believe is your dad who's Australian, and you obviously you went to Tokyo with the Australian Olympic team. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. How was that? That sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was. It was very cool. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but the fact that COVID kind of was rampant at the time made traveling there and moving around pretty difficult. So maybe we didn't get the full Olympic experience, but like beating Argentina in the first game, playing against Spain, against players like Pedri and stuff. But yeah, unforgettable moments. And I'm grateful I got picked to go on a trip.
So presumably you had the choice of England or Australia, and obviously Australia came calling. It was an easy call to make.
Yeah. When I was younger, I went out to Australia to see my grandparents and on various holidays, and I've always felt like a great affinity to the country. So yeah, I wanted to play for Australia. Yeah, that was the decision.
Yeah. So how's the accent coming on then?
I'm not going to embarrass myself and try it, but it's behind closed doors. I would say it's okay.
Well, I've got a great affinity with. I've got a daughter in Sydney, and my son went out in November to Perth. So, and I've been FaceTiming in today, and I've been doing my accent, and believe you me, it's crap. So I won't bother you with it.
Yeah, it's a hard one to nail.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I just sound like I'm whining, and I've got the inflection right though, so where everything sounds like a question, you know. Got that right, but the accent's crap. But anyway, never mind. So moving on, you've come in. I mean, perfect timing for you to come on here because obviously the opportunity that came your way against Burton, you've been waiting a long time to take that. You've come on in some difficult situations this season. And I know that obviously, I think you've scored 3 now because obviously you bagged one in the was it the Papa John's? Yeah, that's right. So your position, do you feel like you're best in the middle, in the 10 role? Do you want to go out wide? Where do you feel what's your best bet?
I think I'm probably most effective in the middle. Whenever I play wide, I end up running all the way inside anyway. So I'd say I'm probably best suited to sort of the 10, playing around the middle of the pitch. But obviously for that, you need to be secure on the ball, not lose it. And at times, I think, especially as games drag on, that's where I let myself down a bit, which is part of why I'm on loan to learn those skills and be better at them. So
obviously, you a well-documented, fantastic loan period at Crawley Town where you suffered, was it a hamstring injury after 18 minutes?
Yeah, I did my hammy, yeah.
So you're doing considerably better with us than you did with them, which is probably a godsend for you because it's an important part of your career, this sort of building up, as a player, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The Crawley period was a frustrating one to say the least. But it's basically my first season in proper senior football. Getting to know League One, how managers work, how the teams work, etc. And yeah, it's been an education. I've learned a lot so far, and hopefully I learn a lot more.
And so I'll ask you now. I'll always ask one before I hand you on to Joel, who'll ask you more serious questions. Who's the loudest in the dressing room? Is it Connor?
Loudest in the dressing room? I don't know. I don't think it would be Rippers. I'm trying to think. There's various groups that people will be like louder in. He might be up there. Dylan's probably up there.
Dylan? Oh, that's different. We've not had that one before. Fair play.
Faz isn't quiet. Yeah. There's a few. Honestly, I'm trying to think, and I can't think of anyone I'd pick out as the loudest.
Are you one of the quiet ones then?
Nah, I wouldn't say so. Nah, I wouldn't say I'm one of. I don't think I'd be named as one of the quiet ones.
So who's in your group and who's the loudest in your group then?
Oh, I don't mean to make it sound clicky, but like the just like sort of car schools and stuff. And I drive in with Jake and Jensen, and I'd say I'd probably be the loud one in that.
Well, fair enough. I can cope with that. I'll hand you over to my esteemed colleague Joel, who asks far more in-depth questions than I ever do.
No, far more boring questions, I think some people might say. But obviously, you had your loan at Crawley, but I think it was before that actually as well. You had, or was it after? Can't remember. But you've had some minutes in the Premier League. So what was that like coming on the pitch there?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was before my Crawley spell. The season before, like around probably like a similar time actually, like January, and there was a few injuries in the squad, and I'd made my debut in the FA Cup, and then I'd done okay and got on in 3 games after that. And to be fair, when I came on, I had literally no impact on the game at all. I tried to take it by the scruff of the neck a bit better. But yeah, you're planning up against players from Man City and Arsenal and stuff. It kind of felt a bit dreamish, if I'm honest.
I can imagine. Yeah, I imagine as well. Like, I don't know what it must be like for somebody coming in, but I imagine it's quite the speed and intensity at which everything's happening. Is that going to hit you as well?
Yeah. Like, you get the ball and someone's on you immediately. And like coming off the bench in a 23s game can sometimes come at you quite fast. But the Premier League is a whole completely different level. There's a reason they get paid outrageous amounts of money, because they just are that good.
So coming back down to League One level, what's that like? What's the kind of biggest shock and adjustment being kind of coming into first team football in League One?
Biggest shock and adjustment. I mean, obviously it's League One. It's a high level. It's quick. It's fast. It's physical. You make mistakes more often than not, you're going to get punished. But like, yeah, I think I was as prepared as I could be, having played no men's football before. Obviously, I'm a lot better now than I was at the start of the year, and I've learned a lot from my experience so far. But I don't know. I just say the intensity of which is played, plus the crowd, is probably the main thing I've noticed.
So in terms of the stuff you've learned since the start of the season, then kind of on both on and off the pitch, what are the kind of main things that you've learned?
Oh, there's a load of things. I think things like when to try and do a bit with the ball, like higher up in the pitch where you can affect it more. I think I was guilty of. I still am to an extent, but a lot less. I think of like trying to beat a few players in my own half. Where in League One, if you lose it and they go and score, like, you won't play for a couple of weeks. Just stuff like that, coming out in the second half, knowing how to go down, take a foul, slow the game down. Just like tricks of the trade that you wouldn't learn playing 23s football. And like being reliable defensively, stuff that will keep the gaffer picking you, and maybe you're not firing in the final third like you should be.
So talking of kind of coming on at certain points in games and doing the right things at the right times, I found it interesting when Derek brought you on against Accrington, because obviously we're defending your lead, and then he brings on an attacking midfielder for a centre back, and I thought it was really interesting. I think it ended up working quite well from kind of my perspective in the crowd. I kind of guess he was asking you to kind of, get up in their faces and maybe give them something to think about. Was that kind of your instruction when you went on then?
He just kind of just told me I was going on the 10, and yeah, that was about it. I mean, we were up in the games, so I kind of knew my role was maybe not to try and go and win the game, but help protect the lead that we had. But yeah, just for him to trust me in moments like that, it's probably something that he wouldn't do at the start of the year. So I was pleased that I could come on in moments like that, and not just when we're losing or drawing, and he needs like a moment for us to score or win from.
I have to say, around me in the Barty card, there were quite a few of the older people saying, he's lost his mind. He's taken the centre half on, brought Caleb on. And I was like, there's got to be a reason for it, because he's very tactically astute, is Derek. He's not an idiot. And it did work. But like I say, some of the guys around me were like, he's on drugs. What's he doing? And it was like, yeah, it's fair enough, because he's not known for a sort of, that was seen as quite an extravagant gesture, wasn't it, Joel?
Yeah, I think in general, just with any manager, when they do something that looks that alarming, I usually assume there's probably quite a good reason behind it that I haven't spotted, because I'm not an experienced football manager. So I always think when they do something like that, you think, yeah, he's cooking something here. So you just wait and see what happens. But yeah, going back to the Olympics, I did actually realise, I was having a little bit of a research on this. I noticed you shared the pitch with not obviously Pedri and some other really great players, but also Alexis McAllister, who's now won the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you beat him.
Yeah, you beat him 2-0.
Yeah, they were down to 10 men, and yeah, it was a great win. I was buzzing after that.
So
Well, you just need to tell Jensen that, because when he goes back to Brighton, he can remind him.
Yeah.
So actually, talking of the international camps, so obviously you said the Tokyo one was when you're in for the Olympics. Obviously, that's going to be hampered a bit by COVID. But in general, what is it like going away on those international camps?
Yeah, enjoyable. You get to represent your country. I've always loved singing the national anthem before games. That kind of makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. But yeah, it's great. You get to play against different players from different countries, and you see like how different countries maybe produce different types of players. When you play against the Mexico, you know it's going to be a sort of like gritty sort of game. And I find that interesting, playing against teams like that and seeing things like that.
You know, actually, you just reminded me of something I heard in the pot. I can't remember. I think it might have been the Tifo podcast, but they were saying about how there was a bunch of journalists playing in. I think it was at a World Cup, and a bunch of journalists from different countries joined up in little 6-a-side, 7-a-side teams and played against each other. And they said you could actually see that, like you said, the tactical identities and the kind of playing identities of each country even kind of pervades to journalists who obviously played a bit when they were a kid, but obviously aren't proper footballers. So yeah, that's quite interesting to hear that. So it's actually coming to League One. Then is that something you kind of learn when you're playing in League One now? Do you start to kind of pick out the different identities and styles of play that different teams in this division are kind of deploying?
Yeah, I mean, we go through it as a team in a sort of debrief form before the games about like who their danger men are, etc., etc. So yeah, to an extent, you know, against like the Ipswiches and stuff, you're going to be running a lot, chasing the ball. So yeah, I would say so. I think towards us, there's probably less like specific styles of play, and it's a bit more random, like where we are on the table, apart from maybe like from a screen a little bit. But like obviously near the top end, you get a lot of teams that are heavy on the passing, and I have noticed that.
And then you've got Wickham.
Yeah.
Good fun. Yeah, no, it was very interesting. Cheers, Caleb. Back to you, Freeze.
So we now move on to the arrivals and departures, which makes it sound like an airport, doesn't it, really? But as we suspected, Usman Fain, or Fane, whichever you want to call him, has departed for Pastors New, signing for Penang in the Malaysian League, which was obviously just been announced today. Good luck to him. He came in and did a job for us at the end of last season, didn't he, Joel? And for that, we've got to be grateful.
Yeah, my favourite agent of chaos. I enjoy it. I like watching this one play. But, you know, yeah, I think, he kind of helped kind of hit upon, I think, a similar formula for when we got promoted, to be honest, having a sitter mop and do all that horrible dirty work, and then let Wilding and Phillips, you know, let them, do my stuff in the final third. So yeah, it worked out quite nicely. And obviously this season, not quite found that same formula, but as a manager and in football, you know, these things happen. You move players on and make room for others. But yeah, I think he's definitely contributed. He was a big part of us staying up last season. So yeah, best of luck to him over and back in Malaysia.
Loved a tackle. And there were times when he even his legs didn't know what he was thinking by the look of it, but it was always great to watch, and he never got less than 100%. So you can't fault him for that, can you, James?
Oh, you can't. And I'll remember him for the tackles, and for the fact that in his first interview he actually described himself as a destroyer. But also for that lovely Messi-like mazy run on the left against Oxford, which absolutely wonderful. And you've got to remember the best of a player as well.
Yeah, of course you have. Yeah, and he did us a great job. But obviously, Derek's been saying sort of like all the way, sort of since end of November, that it's going to have to be moving people out to get people in. And I'm going to go for hopefully the correct pronunciation of the recent signing. Today we've announced the signing of is he a destroying centre half or is he a footballing centre half, Caleb?
I think he's probably got a bit of both, to be fair.
All right, okay. Anyway, it's Danel Simiu. I hope I've pronounced that right and done him justice. he's got a good pedigree. Obviously, he's at Southampton, where we've got some good players from Southampton, haven't we, Caleb?
I think so. Anyway,
So yeah, and you've played with him, and he's a decent lad.
yeah, no, he's a good player. I think he'll help us. And yeah, aggressive, strong, fast, good in the air, and he's decent on the ball. And obviously, Craig and the gaffer have watched him and like what they've seen. So yeah, hopefully he'll help us a lot.
Former Chelsea academy, which as me being a blue, that's good for me. But obviously Southampton have given him a 3-year contract, I believe, so they've seen something in him, which is great. Interesting from the point of view, does that, obviously we've lost a defensive midfielder because he thinks Gibbo can do the job. Gives us an extra dimension in the centre half position, because obviously from what Caleb says and what the Tranmere and Carlisle fans say, he's got a bit of pace, Joel.
Yeah, no, it looks like he's got a lot of things that you want to see in a centre back. Aerial ability, pace, gun the ball. So hopefully, should help him improve things. Because obviously, Connor Ripley's been very, very busy this season, and as great as he is at shot stopping, it'd be nice for him to have to be a little less busy in the next half of the season. So hopefully, Donnell can help contribute to that.
And looking at that, James, some good news, because obviously, yes, it's a shame that I'm really good that Usman's found himself a club. 1 in, 1 out. Obviously, Derek will try to be doing something similar, I suppose, with maybe a couple of other positions.
Yeah, Derek's doing all that he possibly can, and it's funny you sort of, I didn't ever realise this. I got involved a few years ago, but if you were to describe, any transfer window at any club, it's a bit like standing in watching a fruit machine and the wheels going round and round and round, because there's potential in, there's potential out, and there's all this stuff going on. And if there's 20 names, then there's 3 that come out at the end, and the other 17 have been talked about in another 6 clubs. And there's a lot going on. So I know that Derek and Greg will be busy.
Well, excuse the poor pun, but as long as we don't end up with 3 lemons.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, the business that's been done, and I'm not just saying this because one of them sitting here, but the business that's been done in this last start of this season was excellent. I mean, I don't know the last time we've had such a good crop of loanees as just now. Absolutely fantastic. And we've got 3 Premier League, 1 good Championship, and 1 proper Scottish Premier League player. And so yeah, I think so far it's gone well from the point of view of incomings this season. But yeah, the transfer window will be hectic and busy for Greg and Derek, and take whatever activity pops out at the end and is announced. Times it by about 35, and that's the amount of work that they're doing in the background.
Yeah. So obviously, watch this space, and we'll see what happens. But from that point of view, we're moving on, and obviously, it would be remiss of me not to mention what's happened in the last 24 hours with the Daily Mail report and pictures of the potential owner. I know this is a difficult situation for you. So obviously, you've got to toe the party line. What can you tell us, James?
My daughter's just calling me. I'm just going to go and check it. No, seriously, I can't say anything. Ultimately, until a deal is concluded, it is just noise and speculation and hearsay. I'm not a Daily Mail reader, and I actually
Thankfully
read what was in there, and I don't think I'll ever pick up the Daily Mail, to be honest. But no, there's nothing to say at this moment, because until something is concluded, there isn't anything to report.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of flavour of the article. It's what did you call it? Client journalism, you called it, Joel.
Yeah.
It was obviously written by somebody who works at the Daily Mail's offices in London, because he said the club's worth 20 million quid, which I'm sure even our potential buyers will come in with a bit of a shock with, Joel, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it did feel like it'd been written very much from the perspective of the potential buyer wanting to put the word out there. And obviously there's a few spurious things in the article that whip it all up a bit, like the 20 million valuation and the Tyson Fury interest, which obviously he did go on TalkSport and talk about, but doesn't seem to have actually ever been genuine. So yeah, it's one of those where there's information out there to be read. So we'll just have to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously, it is, there's, and it would be remiss of me not to mention it, but obviously, the rumor mill's gone into overdrive in the last 24 hours because people are doing research online onto this gentleman's companies and saying, you know, there's nothing to them and blah blah blah. Which obviously it is early days. As if the EFL do a fit and proper test and they pass, then it's on we go. But following on from that, I know that in the past the Shrimps Trust has been involved, Joel, from that point of view of getting involved early with the new owners, particularly with Jason and Colin, but also after the sort of Diego Limos fiasco is what's really created the Shrimps Trust. So presumably there'll be plans in place to sort of, if we do get new owners, whoever they may be, that there'll be meetings arranged, I suppose, Joel.
Yeah, it would be something that we'd look to do. Obviously, we're all aware of the situation and we're keeping an eye on it, and we'll be discussing how best to proceed with it. But yeah, things like the fans forum, like we have with Jason and Colin when they first took over, that will be stuff that'll be on the agenda.
And it's obviously we're recording this. We record this on a Thursday evening. We've got Cheltenham Gale on the Saturday, so things may have opened up. Who knows? By tomorrow and Saturday, we may know more. But obviously, I understand why you can't say any more, James. I know, obviously, I know you've met the gentleman and his family, and I know you can't say any more. But obviously, you know, am I right in thinking they're from the West Midlands? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, all right then. It will be yam yams from now on. See, I can do a West Midlands. I can't do Australian. I never said I could. Well, no. And Caleb can't either, despite his fact. Does your dad talk Australian, by the way? Or has he lost his accent?
I would say no, but when people meet him, sometimes they say they hear the accent.
That's the odd word. Because my daughter's been there 5 years, and when we talk to her, there's the odd word that comes out where she sounds really northern, and there's the odd word that she sounds Australian, and so it's a really, really strange mix of, you know, gravy and beer.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Yeah, it is. I had to get the gravy thing in again because how did I know that'd be that's your kryptonite is gravy, isn't it, Caleb?
Yeah, I guess so. That and potatoes.
Oh, potatoes. All right.
Yeah, I don't eat them.
Do you not? Is it the starch that upsets you, or just no?
There was a thing when I was younger where I grew up because of them and just haven't been able to look at them since.
I'm the same with Aftershock.
Sorry?
I'm the same with Aftershock.
Yeah, I'm going to say mine with Pernod.
Mine's cider, to be fair.
You see, you as a professional sportsman, yours is potatoes, ours is all alcohol. That's the issue. That's where we're different, you know. Right. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Caleb, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck for the rest of the season. Just my final question. Now you've bagged 3. Have you got a target for the rest of the season, or are you just happy to sort of do your bit and score as many offside goals as possible?
Yeah, I've got a target, but I'll keep that to myself, and I'll let you know if I hit it.
Yeah, well, that's good. That means you've had a nice time. You want to come back on at the end of the season and go, I said 20 and I got 18. That's what I like.
Yeah, take it as that.
Instantly regretting what you're saying now, Caleb.
See, I told you we're fun. I told you we're nice. James, thank you very much for your honesty. As soon as something else does happen, then you're in a position. Obviously, we'd hope that you'd let us know, and we can do an exclusive on this here podcast. 100%. Yeah, and Joel, obviously, you'll be going back now and saying to the trust, "Oh my God, he asked me a really difficult question." So you better sort that one out as well. But thanks for listening. Hopefully, we'll be back next week with another guest from the dressing room, and obviously, fingers crossed to talk about the 3rd home win on the bounce with another clean sheet. Fingers crossed. Thanks for listening. This has been ShrimpNet.